Immigration authorities detain him over his residency status as Ghana pushes for his extradition. Also to come, Ghana Tertiary Education Commission withdraws its recognition of the Institute of Chartered Accountants Ghana, citing the continued use of an unearned doctoral title by the Institute CEO. Plus, this afternoon, new Patriotic Party's flag bearer aspirant, Dr. Muhammadu Bawumia, calls for unity in the party ahead of the January 31st presidential primary. Those are the big stories this afternoon. I'm Kemini Amano. This is News Central. The news starts now. Now, Ghana's former finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, is currently in the custody of the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, ICE, following concerns about his immigration status, his lawyers say in a statement released Wednesday, January 7, 2026. The law firm Minka Premo Osei-Bonsu Bruce Catlin and partners say that the action by ICE is strictly related to the conditions of Ofori-Atta's stay in the United States. According to that statement, his American legal team is already engaging immigration officials and experts and now hoping the matter will be resolved quickly. Ms. Ofori-Atta has been in the United States since January 2025, which he has said was for medical treatment. However, his stay comes against the backdrop of ongoing legal action in Ghana. The Office of the Special Prosecutor has placed him on an Interpol red notice over allegations of using public office for profit, a move his lawyers say he is challenging through the courts. Let's stay on this subject matter a bit longer, because we know that on the 31st of January 2025, Ofori-Atta's lawyers informed the OSP that he was abroad indefinitely for reasons and health reasons really, and would later communicate a return date. But after being summoned to appear on 10th of February. Now, when 10th of February arrived, the OSP demanded a definite return date. His lawyer submitted a medical letter then, citing ongoing tests and a planned procedure, requesting a rescheduled interview but giving no return. Remember, that was when the Mayo Clinic letter came out. And then it continues 2 days after the OSP declared Ofori-Atta a fugitive, stating he had shown no intention of returning voluntarily and warning of enforced return. So what happened? His lawyers then said he was scheduled for surgery in late March, required 6 to 8 weeks recovery, and projected a return between 14th and 30th May 2025. We know that return never happened. Minority Leader on the 18th of February 2025 publicly confirmed the mid-May return window and said Ofori-Atta would submit himself for question upon arrival on the floor of Parliament. On the 2nd of June, he did not turn up. He did not communicate to the OSP as well. Again, health reasons had been given, and now requesting a virtual interview instead. On the 5th of June, following the missed appearance, the OSP reinstated his fugitive status and obtained an Interpol red notice for his arrest. It goes on and on until the 20th of November 2025, when his lawyers state he had not been formally served with charges, and Ofori-Atta would comply once properly notified of those charges. We know what has happened since then and where we are today. The lawyers have also made clear that his detention by ICE is not because of extradition. It's because of his stay in the U.S. Let's have a quick chat with constitutional law lecturer and private legal practitioner Justice Abdullahi, who has expressed frustrations over the delay in fast-tracking the prosecution of the former finance minister. Counsel, here we are today. We understand that ICE may have been given a tip-off which led to his detention. And indeed, just before we go into that, it would appear that Ghanaian authorities have a window to grab Ken Ofori-Atta. Would you say same?
Indeed, that is actually my hope, that the authorities in Ghana will take advantage of the situation and put in some gestures that would ultimately inure to our benefit with his detention. Let's remember that once ICE detains a person, the whole essence is to deport the person for good reasons. And there is an opportunity for an expedited deportation without any hearing. And that is a good window that the Foreign Ministry, together with the Attorney General's office, can take advantage of to get him expedited. Because normally, if you wait for the person to be put before court, it could take a while for this to happen, and might not even happen, considering the circumstances of the case. And remember, we need to remember that because of the cases or the potential charges against him, it could aid in our ability to get him come here on an expeditious basis. Unfortunately, because of the political connotations, it could also serve as a deterrent, or it could play to his advantage if he's also able to play that card very well in his favor. But on the balance, Ghana has a better opportunity now to get him deported without even having to go through the extradition processes.
I see. I want to bring in John Quayson also, who is the constitutional lawyer on this subject matter. And I hear you, Justice, when you say it's a fine opportunity for the for Ghanaian authorities to now pounce in and bring home the former finance minister. But then to John, what will be the processes at this time when Justice tells us that, look, you don't have to even go through the courts as previously mentioned?
Okay, thank you very much. I think where they have gotten to now is a very strategic period. And then also, I would say it doesn't favor Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta at this point in time. And it didn't come just on the split of the moment. This is something that has been orchestrated all along. And if you recall, within this short period of a year, the Ghana government has collaborated enough with the U.S. government. We've been 4 Ghanaians, okay? When this internet scam thing came, they already in U.S. In essence, U.S. functionaries have to be in court. Then also, quite recently, we also hear of this Swedroe case. So all this didn't just come up. Everything has been orchestrated and well coordinated. So at this point, I think the U.S. is also trying to pay us back by giving to us Ken Ofori-Atta to come and face.
You think that is what this is?
Exactly so. You see,
why do you think that is what this is?
Of course, it was already in the news. And the way the government were going about things, okay, government functions, the speed with which they were making effort in extraditing Ghanaians to the U.S. specifically, should tell you that there have been some conversations between Ghana's official and then the U.S. official. It wouldn't have just come on a silver platter like that, that your own citizens, you'll be more than willing and happier to send them. And the Attorney General has, on countless occasions, also come public in his public engagement and told Ghanaians that there is correspondence between Ghana government and the U.S.
I see.
government. It will only take a matter of time, and I think that time is this particular moment.
That time is now.
And there's nothing for that can do at this point.
Oh, is that the case? I'll come back to, I'll take you up on that. But I'll turn to Justice Abdullahi now because I want us to look at ICE itself as an immigration enforcement agency. We know that they have been accused of grabbing people whose stay in the U.S. continue to be legal. If you read that letter from Minka Premo and co., you read in that they say that he is already going through the process for an adjustment of status, which means that he can legally live in the U.S. What challenge do you think that could pose for his return home, whether by deportation or through our authorities?
Well, so much as his change of status, if it works out, could potentially inure to his benefit by way of getting him to regularize his stay in the U.S., it does not in any way also prevent ICE from deporting him to Ghana on good grounds. They can always, and the advantage here is that is yet to be decided upon. And so that window between now when his status has not changed and his presence in the United States remains unlawful, if you like, because so long as your status hasn't changed, that period, unless you have a permit to stay within that period, the window period that was waiting for your status to change, can be a strong reason for you to be sent home. Usually, once you put in an application, you are allowed to stay until the status is completely changed. But in this particular case, I'm only praying that he has not received any confirmation of his ability to stay. In fact, which is actually why the lawyers are pushing for him to be placed before an immigration court. Because once you put before immigration court, that is where, if a positive finding is made in his favor, on the basis of whatever argument that they may advance before the court, then he could stay. But my advocacy here consistently remains that we should not even wait for that to happen. Let's get him brought to, return here before that process even commences. Because if we're able to do that, we have a better advantage. If we wait for him to be sent to the immigration court, then we leave our chances to be decided upon by a judge who might be impartial in making a decision. But at this point, ICE can bring him with or without an immigration court saying so.
I see. And so then you'd agree with John when he says there's nothing he can do at this point?
Well, there are a lot that he can do, which is some of which I have already outlined. That first, once his lawyers have invoked the authorities, the procedures within ICE, he can be placed before a court immediately, and he could be released on bond upon posting a bond or upon stated grounds. He could be released on bail. Now, when that happens, then getting him would then have to go through the original means of getting him extradited, which is a longer process that doesn't favor us. This one favors us, and this one is faster, it is easier, and this one can get the good people of Ghana the best news of the new year.
I see, John, is time of the essence here in terms of local authorities here in Ghana and the ability to bring Ken home?
Yeah, there's nothing Ken can do at this point in time. The emphasis is on the fact that this is a well-orchestrated arrangement. It didn't just come overnight. There is a serious communication between Ghana government and the U.S. government. But you see, U.S. is U.S. When they want to do something, they take their time. If they want to favor you, they will favor you. But when the time comes that there is nothing else they could do to assist you, they come hard at you.
So you think that ICE is just being used so that the U.S. can do Ghanaian authorities the favor of returning the former finance minister home?
Of course. Otherwise, they wouldn't have even detained him in the first place. Mind you, Honorable Kenneth Ofori-Atta is a darling boy of the Americans. Okay? He's an integral part of the U.S. government. So all this while that they were refusing in bringing him, it might have happened that he had also assisted the U.S. is to some extent over the years.
But you're just speculating.
Come again?
That you are just speculating.
Oh, we are in the system. We follow international politics and then the in and out of what goes on in other countries. Otherwise, he would have been brought to Ghana a long time ago. It doesn't take 1 week to extradite somebody. Because Ghana has also signed a extradition treaty. U.S. is also a signatory to that. And especially when I have indicated that the U.S. demanded some favors from Ghana government in sending our citizens to the U.S. And this is an arrangement of a sort. If I give you this, what do you also have in return? And at that point, Ghana's ultimate request is that bring Ken Ofori-Atta. Okay, then bring this scam boys and have him back. But as to the time he will be brought, that is where the U.S. was strategic about, because they knew that his visa was going to expire at any point in time. Let me give you also this. Manasseh Azuri, somewhere a month or two ago, in the heat of the moment, commented somewhere that Ofori-Atta's visa, he hears that Ofori-Atta's visa was going to expire somewhere in February. So obviously, when that time comes, the U.S. government wouldn't do anything much. And this is the time. He has been put on remand as we speak. So there's no amount of legalities or technicalities.
I see, gentlemen, I want us to end our conversation now, but Justice, I'll give you the last word. Do you agree with John that this could be a favor returned to Ghanaian authorities using ICE?
That would be very difficult to say, but I do not think that if it is the case, it is not out of place, because I think the concerns have been echoed enough that we are too willing to send our people to the dungeon. But when the table turns, the United States has been rather unfulfilling in its obligations towards us. So if this is one of such, I think it's a good thing, but I do not know, I'm unable to say with any level of certainty whether it is or not. But if it is a good one. We expect more of such cooperation and commitment towards each other in the fight against crime, in all its forms.
Very well, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Justice Abdullahi, constitutional law lecturer, constitutional lawyer, John Quayson, I appreciate your time on the subject matter. We've also been showing you pictures of the detention center, the Caroline Detention Center, where Ken Ofori-Atta is believed to be. That's what is on your screen at the moment. The former Virginia jail now repurposed as a detention center. We understand that this is where the former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta spent the night and is likely to spend a few more days before his fate is decided, whether his lawyers in the U.S. are able to overturn the attempts to deport him, or Ghanaian authorities are able to take advantage of this window to return him home to face charges here in Ghana. You recall that the USP has begun court processes here already. After a lot of back and forth, a lot of discourse around it, we know that some of them have gone to court, with the exception of Ken Ofori-Atta and one other person. Now the story will continue to develop, very fluid story. We'll bring you new developments as they emerge. In the meantime, civil society organization Arise Ghana called on the security apparatus to intensify efforts again to get Ken Ofori-Atta repatriated to face justice. The group further threatened to picket at the American embassy to press home their demands.
At all costs, under oral, the Attorney General must, through the state investigative agencies such as the Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO, and the Office of the Special Prosecutor, OSP, ensure that all individuals like Ken Ofori-Atta implicated in the past financial.
Oral is operation recover all the loot and not some of the loot. And so we would want all the loot to be recovered. But we've listened to the Ghanaian people. We continue to listen to the Ghanaian people. So you will join us when we go to the American embassy, for example, to picket for the American embassy to allow Ken to come back and face justice, just like they want some heads of state in some countries to face justice back in America.
Their accountability is essential to restoring public trust and deterring future misconduct, and therefore Arise Ghana joins the call for the immediate arrest and extradition of Ken Ofori-Atta to Ghana to face justice.
Away from that, President John Dramani Mahama has condemned the alleged attack on a Class FM reporter by personnel of the Ghana National Fire Service, describing the incident as unacceptable. The president said the attack reflects a troubling lapse in professionalism and called for immediate reorientation of security service personnel in their interaction with journalists. During a tour of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, the president also revealed that officers of the Ghana National Fire Service involved in the attack on the Class FM reporter have been identified and interdicted. According to him, the actions of the officers do not reflect the values expected of security service personnel and call for urgent need for the immediate reorientation of security personnel, particularly in their engagement with members of the media. Komla Kluche is our presidential affairs correspondent. Join us with a bit more on this story. Komla, what else can you tell us about the president's visits and particularly his comments on the attack on the journalists?
Well, even before we come to the comments, this is a formalization visit of His Excellency the President to the state media institutions, i.e. the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, the Graphics Communication Group, and then the Ghana Publishing Company to, so to speak, apprise himself of what the state of affairs has been on the issue, for instance, of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. The president, this will not be his first time going there, but from records, it appears he is the second sitting head of state to have constantly paid a visit to the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. But of much importance, the Director General of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, Professor Alassane, did indicate that, well, they have a myriad of issues that has been facing the state broadcaster, but they have tried in their own ways and means to be able to address them. The issue of digitalizing the state broadcaster is of much concern, but the issue equally of the organogram of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, they have put before the president and said the board has really approved that they should be able to do something about it. The president's comment on it was to the effect that if you have an organogram that dates as far back as 60 years, of course, it needs to be looked at, and that cabinet will welcome whatsoever the progress will be. On the issue also of the state broadcasters' indebtedness, some 13.5 million cedis is owed, of which 5 million has been paid as a result of legacy debts. The president's directive to the Minister of Government Communication is to the effect that they look at it, cabinet will have, not cabinet per se, but the chief of staff will have to have a meeting with them as well as the board to look at how best they will ring fence it, and then the government will see how best they will be able to defray this cost. That's not to say that the government will pay the debt, but it has to be ring fenced, and the chief of staff will give a directive as to what should be the next step. On the attack on the journalists, it's been a stance the president has taken. The very last one had to do with those national security officers who attacked a journalist. The president's directive was to the effect that the chief of army staff, the IGP, should orient service people or members of their security agencies on how to deal with the media. The specific instance of the Class FM reporter, the president blankly condemned this and said those officers have been identified and have been interdicted. Investigation is still ongoing though, but it is a behavior that he says that the security agencies must abhor. If we have the soundbite, we can listen to the president.
No way we countenance, the continued assault on journalists. We've been in touch with the Ghana Journalists Association on these issues. We put them in touch with the security services. We need a reorientation of many of our security personnel to understand that just as they're doing their job of providing peace and safety, journalists are also doing their job of informing the people as to what is happening. So they're not antagonistic to each other. Indeed, they're both serving the same public. Yeah, so we're working on it. But occasionally these things will come up. But when they come, they must be dealt with, as firmly as possible. The Minister of Government Communication has taken it up. I think the officers have been identified, they've been interdicted, and an investigation is ongoing. But we won't countenance assault on journalists.
Komla Kluche, Presidential Affairs Correspondent, thank you so much for the reporting. You're here on News Central. We'll take our very first break. We'll be back with more news. Don't go away. It's still News Central here on TV3. I'm Kamini Amano. Now, the Lands and Natural Resources Minister, Emmanuel Amakofi-Boa, is inspecting some e-waste facilities in the capital. The tour is aimed at assessing their challenges and how best the operational levels can be optimized. The e-waste holding center is aimed at providing incentives for sound disposal, collection and recycling of e-waste to reduce damage to the environment and safeguard human health. The holding center requires some 68 million cedis in order to make the facility operational. In his remarks, he reiterated government's commitment to ensuring other regions benefit from these facilities that protect and save environment. The Lands Minister, who also doubles as the Minister for Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation, assures that the facility will be operationalized after 5 failed attempts. George Quainin is our reporter on the ground. He's joined us with a bit more on this. George, what else can you report?
So, Stephanie, thanks so much. So, like you rightly mentioned, it's actually the third time they tried to operationalize the foundry, and most of the equipment are in Ghana. 90% of them are in Ghana, and these equipment are custom made. They are not on the shelf. So, what that means is that they need some sort of commissioners who will come to Ghana and make sure that it's operationalized well or it's actually certified before they use it. So these people have times that they're supposed to, commission this very equipment, but the slot had expired because we were not ready. The foundry was not ready in terms of finances and all that. So now, if it's almost ready, they need to make sure they create time and get slots with these commissioners, because these commissioners are very busy going around the world certifying other equipment. And so once they get the slot, they come here and then it's certified and then it will be used for operation. So that's 68 million cedis that they require. And then the ministers are sure that they will make sure that, because it's been 5 failed attempts, they will ensure that this year they will try to operationalize, because at the end of the day, globally, 20 to 50 tons of e-waste are generated globally, and the dire implications of these e-waste. So I think it's something that the government, or the government through the ministry, is trying to ensure that we tackle the challenges of e-waste that's in the country community.
I see. Why does the minister say this is an important project in terms of disposal and recycling of e-waste? What does that even do for us?
Okay, so here in Ghana, some substantial amounts of e-waste comes to Ghana from developed countries like the US, Germany, and the like. So these have dire implications. So once they come here, they can be recycled into good use. And also this foundry will be also doing things like knives and other things that are very useful for the home. So it comes at an impulse of these things that we import from the other countries. So apart from it being recycled, they will also be doing cutleries and other things that are of great use to us. So it will cut down on import. So clearly, it will give some sort of employment. According to the manager of that very facility, some 200 people would be employed. So clearly, cut down on the increasing unemployment rate in the country as well.
And George, we hear of encroachment on the lands meant for the expansion of the holding centers.
Mm-hmm. So in that regard, I think that the minister says the whole talks with the authorities that matter, the local government and all that. But there were some soldiers that were, stationed at these vantage points to ensure that there will not be, continued encroachment. The local authorities will be engaged in that regard. If they are able to reclaim it, yes, these security personnel will be positioned at vantage points so that there won't be further encroachment. But according to the minister, they will surely get these lands back so that they can maximize the entire, land that, is owned by the foundry and facility.
I appreciate the report. And George Quainin there, traveling with the Lands and Natural Resources Minister, who we'll listen to now.
Must go back to the drawing board, understand what are the outstanding issues, what equipments are left to be bought, how much is needed to basically make it functional. We need to do that. We need to also beef up security. I've been told that this is the 5th attempt at building a functional foundry that is really going to be the backbone for industries in Ghana. This one must not fail, and we must do everything to make it functional.
What are you going to do to ensure that?
Well, I know that I have to bring my colleague sector ministers to basically brief properly in the cabinet, update them on the status of it. And so I'm working with them on the journey. They are bringing me a comprehensive report on where we are, detailing what equipment are available, the outstanding works, how much is needed to bring the other equipment, and make a case for the necessary resources for us to make it functional. And so I think that it is no-brainer. This is really in the interest of Ghana to make it functional.
Do you have a target that you are expecting the project to?
We have to make some progress this year.
Now, the NPP's flag bearer aspirant, Dr. Mamadou Bawumia, has emphasized the need for unity in the party ahead of the January 31st presidential primary. According to him, the party's primary is a contest to elect the party's candidate and not an avenue to tear the party apart, and urge delegates and the rank and file of the party to exercise restraint in their utterances, which has the tendency of destabilizing the unity of the party. Addressing delegates in the Salaga South and North constituencies, Dr. Mamadou Bawumia called for unity ahead of the January 31st contest.
Now, adia ehia MPP mo eye nkabom ye ko 2028 election ye hia nkabom unni nkabom a untimi wini election elentina me pese nyame adom ye won nkabom a ye betimi a wini election no enti me de me ye me campaign no nkabom lenti men didi obi atem men kasantia obia men bo obia din me chrema dwen keke me kanchiremo ade a metimi aye ade a maye ade a me pese meye na mo ne me ya adwen a na mo ato aba no ama me na yakọ enti me pese me hye mo nyina abo se nyame adom mo de franka na hye me nsa meka obia abom na yakọ akoje tumi no.
The former vice president, on his vision and plans for the party and delegates, said he is committed to ensuring that the grassroots of the party is strengthened and well-resourced.
Nyame ya adom ena modi franka ano shemensa me pese me di nhihye foforo eba ye party mu nhihye a ye beboa ye nyina nhihye beboa ye executives any ye party members nyina nhihye ebema edidigya a aba ye mu no ejai completely edidigya no ebejai nhihye ebema constituencies anya ahoden area campaign na win election but ubese ubua obia unnim na same here ubetimi aboa no ontimi ubebua obia jese unhu na same here yenyina yete dan haimu obia ne na same here o ebi mi wo ho asema here no say omo pejuma ama omomba ebi mi wo ho omo pejuma ama omo ankasa ebi mo wo ho omo ye aduadefo omo pe sika aye business ebi mo ye contractors omo pe contract duma aye ebi mo epese omo ko hajj ebi mo pese omo ko sua ade enya scholarship ekosua ade ebi mo ye ekwiafo omo pe tractors na ye fertilizers na ade e akoye ekwiadwuma obia ne na same here. But we a party to say young party no only database ubetimi ahwemu ehun say me women organizer or Salaga South on here loan aye business and now say me electoral code area coordinator we open scholarship.
Dr. Mamadou Bawumia there wooing delegates in Salaga South ahead of the presidential primary, which is only now 23 days away. Now, the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, has withdrawn its recognition of the Institute of Chartered Accountants Ghana with immediate effect, citing the continued use of an unearned doctoral title by the Institute's Chief Executive Officer, Eric Oduro-Osai. In a letter dated January 8, 2026, and signed by the Director General of GTech, Professor Ahmed Jinapo Abdullahi, the Commission directed ICAG to cease operations as a recognized institution, declaring that all certificates issued by the Institute from that date would be considered unrecognized. GTEC noted that it had previously, in a letter dated October 13, 2025, investigated Ojo Osai's academic credentials and found that a doctoral certificate he submitted from Swiss Management Center and Universidad Central de Nicaragua were invalid and unrecognized under Ghana's tertiary education framework. Now, TV3 has made efforts to reach out to Eric Ojo Osai for his response. When we do get him, we will present his side of the story. In the meantime, we'll take you across the regions when we return. Don't go away. Well, still News Central here on TV3. I'm Kemeni Amana. We'll now take you straight to Parliament, where the Asokwa MP and Deputy Minority Leader Patricia Appiah is addressing the press there on some urgent national matters a year into the John Mahama administration.
And manufacturers. But this government cares more about optics than sustainability, more about short-term applause than long-term stability. $214 million scandal. Nothing exposes the government's failure better than the Gold Board for Reserve disaster. In just 9 months, we lose $240 million. $214 million gone. That is 2.6 billion cedis, money that could have been built, that could have built hospitals, equipped schools, and established storage facilities for farmers. Instead, it was lost in a politically connected gold scheme. Now, let us be clear. The Gold for Reserves program was the brainchild of the NPP government under President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. We conceptualized it, we designed it, we initiated it, and under our administration, it was managed with discipline, transparency, and accountability. The program, as we designed and implemented it, did not lose $214 million in 9 months. So what changed? The government and the people running the program. When President Mahama returned to power, he inherited a functioning program. He politicized it. He expanded it recklessly. He placed it in unprepared and potentially conflict hands, and the result speaks for itself. The Gold Board and the Bank of Ghana, masters of financial misdirection. The IMF, in just 9 months, has documented losses of $214 as a result of the operations of Gold Board and Bank of Ghana. Gold Board and Bank of Ghana has responded. On 3rd January 2026, he emphatically denied that Gold Board made any losses. The governor, or the CEO of Gold Board, generated over $960 million in revenue against 120 million Ghana cedis in expenditure, promising a surplus of 700 to 800 million cedis. These are bold claims, but they do not address the core issue raised in the IMF report. The first sleight of hand, conflating operational accounts with program performance. Gold Board can charge agency fees and earn commissions. None of that addresses whether the Gold for Reserve program itself is loss-making. Here is the analogy. A fund manager who charges 2% fees on $1 billion fund earns $20 million in fees. But what if the fund itself loses $200 million? The management company shows a profit the fund has created. This is exactly what Gold Board is doing. This shows us Gold Board's fee income. This does not show us the actual program performance. The IMF found the $214 million in losses in the actual gold trading operations. And Gold Board's response was to show us agency fees and call it a surplus. That is not transparency. This is misdirection. The Gold Board's second issue, the Bank of Ghana, the Bank of Ghana shall gain. How can an institution that is not making losses. Transfer losses it has not made. Gold Board explains that the program is funded by the Bank of Ghana, sits on their books, so any losses are theirs. But here is what is omitted. Who manages the program? Who executes purchases? Who negotiates with off-takers? Gold Board does. The bank provides funding and bears financial risk, but Gold Board makes the operational decision that determines profit or loss. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, if I give you $100 million to invest and you lose $20 million through poor decisions, technically, it is my loss. But you made the decision that caused it. You are responsible. You are accountable. You cannot claim credit for successes and then disclaim responsibility for failures. The third dodge, we inherited it. Gold Board is only 8 months old. He says, how can we be responsible for legacy losses? The IMF report covers the first 9 months of 2025. Gold Board was established on 2nd April 2025. That means at least 5 months of losses occurred under Gold Board's management. The point is this: a functioning program has been turned into a loss-making operation, and the public deserves full disclosure. The off-taker fee scandal. The IMF specifically highlighted excessive off-takers fees. Off-takers are intermediaries who purchase gold from small-scale miners in a well-managed program. Fees should be competitive. For example, 2 to 3% of gold value. But the IMF identified excessive off-takers fee as a major driver of losses. Fees for above market rates that destroy value. Who selected these off-takers? Who negotiated these fees? Who approved these contracts? These decisions were executed within the operational chain of the program. Why would any manager agree to excessive fees? 2 possibilities. Incompetence. The team did not understand gold trading economics. Corruption. The fee structure may have been designed to benefit private interests. In our view, management had conflated fee income with program performance. They have refused to disclose critical information. When confronted with IMF findings, they deny rather than investigate. Our verdict is that this program is being protected from scrutiny, despite clear red flags. Any competent manager knows that a well-managed gold program should not lose money in a rising gold price environment. 2025 was a bull market for gold. So how do you lose $214 million trading gold in a bull market? You pay excessive fees You buy above market and sell at market. You take poorly structured positions, or you leak value through opaque arrangements. The IMF identified excessive off-taker fees. A competent manager would negotiate disciplined terms, ensure competition among off-takers, and publish fee structures for transparency. That has not happened. From defendant to protector. But Gold Board is not alone. The governor of the Bank of Ghana must also be raising. The governor of Bank of Ghana must also answer serious questions. The governor was elevated by President Mahama, and before the elevation, he was one of the beneficiaries of the Attorney General's nolle prosequi. He faced charges for his previous role at the central bank. Those charges are discontinued through nolle prosequi, and then he was elevated to governor. He faced the institution that funds the Gold for Reserves program, the institution whose balance sheet bears the $214 million loss, the institution that should have provided rigorous oversight. Under governor's watch, these losses occurred. Excessive fees were allowed. Trading losses mounted. Controls failed. And when the IMF exposed these losses, the Bank of Ghana issued press release dismissing the IMF's concern defense instead of scrutiny. As governor, he must answer, what oversight did the bank provide? When did they become aware of losses? Why defend and deny rather than investigate? Who approved the off-takers' contracts? And critically, as someone who benefited from the nolle prosequi, does he not see the public concern when accountability questions arise again around politically exposed actors? Abandoned farmers, rotten crops. While this government burns millions of unquestionable gold scheme, our farmers watched their harvest rot. Rice farmers in the northern region brought in bumper harvest. They planted, they tended, they harvested, and then they waited for a government that had no ready plan. Tons of paddy rice sat rotting. Tomato farmers faced the same nightmare. Glut harvest with no storage, no processing, no support. They acted only after demonstrations and threats of boycotts. Too little, too late, too reactive. This is governance by crisis. Think about the contrast. $240 million lost in 9 months on a gold scheme, but no resources ready for farmers until they took to the streets. And while government celebrates cedi appreciation, rice farmers are now face cheaper imported rice flooding markets. Tomato farmers compete with imported concentrate benefiting from the strong cedi. The very farmers government neglected are now undercut by the policies government celebrates. Galamsey, blood money and betrayal. Fellow Ghanaians, on that fateful day of 6th August 2025, 8 citizens of Ghana, including 2 top ministers of state, took to the skies on a mission to confront illegal mining. They never returned. Their helicopter fell from the sky and a nation mourned. This tragic incident should have strengthened national resolve to defend our land, our water, and our children's inheritance. Instead, Ghanaians watch a government that speaks against Galamsey in press conferences while allowing questionable incentives, weak enforcement, and compromised supply chain to persist. This is not merely policy failure, it is betrayal of public trust. Illegal mining continues to expand. Our water bodies are poisoned with mercury and cyanide. Our cocoa farms are destroyed. Our forest reserves are vandalized. The Pra River and Cobra and Brim increasingly reflect national distress and institutional weakness. As we speak, many parts of Accra are without water. This is happening alongside increased tariffs. When institutions meant to safeguard our environment are subordinated to opaque arrangements, what we witness is not a decisive fight against Galamsey. It is a loss of state control. The blood debt. The tragedy of the helicopter crash and the broader damage of Galamsey demand accountability and reform. Across Ghana, families lose relatives to cancers, kidney failure, and poisoned water linked to illegal mining. Farmers watch cocoa farms destroyed. Communities watch rivers die. Ghanaians must insist on truth, credible independent investigations, and consequences for the network that profit from destruction. A nation under siege, a security crisis that we are facing. But while this government burns millions on gold schemes and abandoned farms, Ghanaians sleep with one eye open. The security situation has deteriorated, transforming our once peaceful nation into fear and uncertainty. Fellow Ghanaians, 1 year into President John Mahama's renewed mandate, our country is gripped by insecurity that cannot be brushed aside with ceremonies. The Interior Minister has admitted that as of July 2025, Ghana had recorded about 628 cases of armed robbery and 340 murders involving illicit arms, and an alarming toll in just half a year. Ghanaians no longer feel protected in their own homes. The duty to safeguard life and property has weakened under politicized policing and neglect of security services. It is not merely resource, it is priority. Since January 7, 2025, Communal and chieftaincy clashes have erupted from Boko to Sampa and Abodom, leaving scores dead and thousands displaced in the Savannah and Upper East area alone. Clashes related to land and traditional authority have killed at least 31 people and uprooted about 48,000 citizens. A government that presides over such pervasive fear without a credible national strategy for prevention, early warning, and rapid response has failed a basic duty of protection. Fellow Ghanaians, kidnapping has risen sharply. Young women and men disappear. Children vanish on their way to school. And the story of an 18-year-old Senegalese goalkeeper, Sheikh Touare, is one of the most heartbreaking examples of how far this has gone. Sheikh came to Kumasi with dreams, lured by what he believed was a genuine football opportunity. His family sent him to Ghana in hope and trust. Instead, they received his body back, murdered by kidnappers. The death tells every investor, tourist, and parent that Ghana's safety reputation cannot be taken for granted. To be clear, the Ghana Police Service deserves commendation for operations like the Efiekuma rescue, where 25 people were freed from captivity after being lured by fraudulent recruitment schemes. These officers risk their lives daily, but a nation cannot survive on reactive heroism alone. We need a comprehensive national security strategy, visible results, and sustained leadership. Meanwhile, border security appears gravely weakened. Illegal arms flow across borders. Criminal gangs operate with impunity. Terror-linked arrests have occurred in the Upper East and Upper West region. The government response has been committed in meetings, but communities remain vulnerable and security forces remain under-resourced. When citizens cannot travel safely on our highways, when parents fear their children would not return home, when investors question whether Ghana can protect assets and personnel, when terrorists probe our borders, this is not merely a security failure, it is a governance crisis. Broken jobs, broken promises, the collapse of the 24-hour economy. Fellow Ghanaians, beneath the speeches and headlines, facts reveal deepening joblessness and broken promises. The Ghana Statistical Service and independent analysis show that over 1 million young people remain unemployed or underemployed, while survey rank unemployment as the number one concern of citizens. Yet, since January 7, 2025, thousands of public servants have reportedly been dismissed through directives associated with the Office of the Chief of Staff, plunging households into hardship. These dismissals are not mere statistics. They represent teachers, nurses, administrators, and professionals in a country battling structural unemployment and widening gap, politically colored job losses are economically self-defeating. They stand in stark contrast to the promise of a transformative 24-hour economy, one job, 3 shifts around the clock. The human cost of this failure reached tragic expression at Elwag Stadium, where job seekers were packed into unsafe conditions for a recruitment exercise, leading to a deadly stampede. To date, Ghanaians deserve fuller transparency on investigations, accountability, and the measures in place to prevent any reoccurrence. This lack of public accountability is unacceptable in any serious democracy. Ghanaians deserve a full update on the investigations, the officials held liable, and concrete measures to ensure no young person ever dies again simply for seeking the dignity of work. This is not merely interpretation. It reads as an attempt to weaken independent oversight. The Attorney General speaks of operations recover the loot, over 200 cases, 33 against former appointees. But actions suggest it is not consistently about accountability. It appears selective. Real accountability will be blind to party. It would investigate the $214 million loss, insist on transparency, and uphold one standard of justice. Instead, selective accountability, partisan accountability, and competence. Headlines are plentiful, but convictions are scarce. Investigations into major current losses are unclear. Accountability for present officials is resisted. Let's look at governance by propaganda. One defining failure, the substitution of governance with propaganda. Government communication floods social media. Infographics and jingles replace audited reports as institutional transparency. They celebrate GDP growth while farmers' rights rots. They trumpet city appreciation while tomatoes waste. They announce corruption cases but secure no conviction. They praise macro stability while losing $240 million. They speak of the rule of law while undermining judicial independence. Every failure is defended through spin. Every scandal is drowned out. But facts are stubborn. Reality cannot be spun away forever. Who is playing politics? Government surrogates accuse the opposition of talking down the economy. But consider facts. We left stabilizing indicators. We negotiated the IMF program. We implemented painful reforms. We left a gold for reserve program that worked. We created and respected the OSP even when it investigated our own. This government has ridden reforms while introducing new risk. When an administration presides over $240 million loss, resists scrutiny, abandons farmers, removes a Chief Justice under contested circumstances, packs the Supreme Court, weaponizes Article 88, establishes two-tier justice, assaults the OSP through the legislation, then litigation, and support cases seeking an unconstitutional third term. The question is not whether criticisms is too harsh. The question is whether the government is being honest. The question is whether we will remain silent while the Constitution is strained. And our answer is clear: no, never, not on our watch. We are calling for action. Fellow Ghanaians, this anniversary is a time for clarity, courage, and action. Our job is to insist on sustainability, legality, and fairness, to defend the Constitution, to speak for abandoned farmers, to project judicial independence, to demand accountability for $214 million, to defend the OSP, to defend term limits when a president seeks to evade them. And we will not be deterred. We will not be silenced. The call for parliamentary investigations. This parliament has constitutional duty to investigate the government. Let me take it again. This parliament has a constitutional duty to investigate what this government seeks to hide. We call on Parliament to immediately establish bipartisan select committees to investigate. First, the $240 million loss in the Gold for Reserve program, subpoena all off-takers' contracts, compel Gold Board and Bank of Ghana officials to testify under oath, review all trading data, identify who approved excessive fees and why, determine whether criminal conduct occurred. We will demand parliamentary investigations. We will not relent in demanding accountability, not until Ghana is set on a truly sustainable, just and transparent path. Real support for farmers, real accountability for wasted millions, real judicial independence, not compromised by court packing, real justice that treats all equally, an attorney general who does not weaponize Article 88. Anti-corruption institutions that are protected, not targeted for destruction. May God grant us courage to defend our democracy, and may God make our nation truly great and strong. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
That's you. I mean, you want to speak the truth?
I can't.
It's okay. So we want to take this opportunity to thank you. We are unfortunately not taking any questions. I mean, everything is captured in the statement. So please, I would share the soft copy with you and you can proceed to work on them. Thank you very much. You may stay.
You're still here on TV3. That press conference addressed by Deputy Minority Leader and MP for Asokwa, Patricia Appiagyei, ending today's extended edition of News Central. I'll now connect you live to the afternoon show. Anita and Godwin are on standby for you. Hi, guys. Hi,
Kamini. Thank you. Have a good afternoon. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the #1 lifestyle show in the country, the afternoon show. You know.